Tom Kozlowski here with you on 104.5 The Team and 104.5theteam.com. Joining us on the phone lines, he covers the Buffalo Bills for NFL.com. Chris Trapasso. And Chris, you were at Bills camp the other day. The injury to LeSean McCoy, how did that injury occur?
It was actually just kind of one of those freak accidents where it wasn't on a big hit. It wasn't even when he slipped on the turf. He kind of pulled up lame, which is what we see a lot with those hamstring injuries. So I think that was a good sign, and obviously reports have surfaced today that he is going to be ready for week one, but it was not a big hit to his leg or anything like that. So I think that's a good sign going forward.
There was talk of a possible Ray Rice signing for the Buffalo Bills. Is that still the direction this franchise may go if McCoy does have to miss any additional time?
I don't think so. They signed Sierra Wood, a running back out of Notre Dame, who's kind of hopped around some practice squads over the last couple of years. He was with the Texans last season. And although, pretty much the entire Bills running back contingent is hurt right now, none of those injuries seem to be, threatening well into the season. So, when you look at it, there's LeSean McCoy, who says he's going to be back for week one. Fred Jackson, Anthony Dixon, Bryce Brown, Carlos Williams. So I still think that, come September and at least into October, the Bills will be healthy again at running back, and there just won't be a lot of room to sign someone like Ray Rice.
Joining us on the phone lines, he covers the Buffalo Bills for NFL.com. Chris Trapasso. And Chris, everything we're hearing out of Bills camps is that it's now a two-horse race between Tyrod Taylor and Matt Castle for the starting quarterback position. Is that the same thing you've been hearing from camp?
Well, I think that's certainly the perception. And with Tyrod Taylor starting against the Browns in the second preseason game, I think that was fair for Rex Ryan to do it after Matt Castle started the opener against the Panthers. But from the 4 practices that I've been to, E.J. Manuel was still very good. He was not, inaccurate. He was actually very decisive in the second joint practice against the Browns. He was probably the best passer from the pocket, and I thought Tyrod Taylor actually struggled when I could tell that he was trying not to scramble right away, and he was trying to stay in the pocket. He wasn't as decisive. There were a few would-be sacks, and on a few of the throws, even short and even intermediate throws, he was not very accurate with those. So I still think that there's a chance that if Manuel, although he'll probably be playing with the backups against the Browns, if he plays well again, then you could see him get a shot against the Steelers to maybe even play with the first team.
Wow. And now with that being said, do you expect all 3 of these quarterbacks to all make the 53-man roster?
Well, initially, to start this summer, Matt Castle did not look good. He was, to me, clearly the third best quarterback. But throughout the summer and last week against the Panthers, he's been a lot better, a lot more accurate, and he's the only guy that does not have a guaranteed portion on his contract. So at the beginning of the summer, I thought, if Tyrod Taylor and E.J. Manuel were clear-cut the top 2 quarterbacks, that it would make sense for the Bills to just release Matt Castle and to save some money. But I think now, because he has been a lot more under control, I think all 3 could make the roster, and especially with, Tyrod Taylor's propensity to run, and that really increasing the chances of him getting injured, I think that all 3 will be on the roster because all 3, there has been a ton of separation. All 3 have been actually pretty good as the summer has gone on.
Joining us on the phone lines, he covers the Buffalo Bills for NFL.com. Chris Trapasso. Any update on the health of Sammy Watkins? Obviously the first-round pick a few years ago. Watkins not being healthy. Are we going to see him even available for week 1 of the regular season?
Last night in the Bills' second joint practice with the Browns, he was held out just for some soreness. I believe it was in his hamstring as well. But Rex Ryan said after practice that it was very precautionary. Robert Woods, who had a great first joint practice against the Browns, he sat out too. And Rex Ryan just said, he felt a little bit of tightness. And with all the injuries that they've seen at the wide receiver spot and especially at the running back spot, Rex Ryan just said that, for a guy like Watkins, for a guy like Robert Woods, there's really no need for them to really be run into the ground during training camp in the preseason. So I think we'll see the Bills' top two receivers ready when the Bills take on the Colts in Week 1.
There's been talk about Richie Incognito, obviously the controversy involving him and Jonathan Martin in the past, but Incognito might be a big-time player on that offensive line. Is it crazy to suggest that Incognito may actually end up being a captain of this team?
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of crazy after, all that he's been through on, a lot of different teams, and obviously with the Dolphins, everything that happened there that kind of led to his release and all the public scorn that he received. But I think it was a very big vote of confidence when only a week into training camp, Rex Ryan said that he was the starting left guard, that there was not going to be any competition there. Cordy Glenn was going to be the left tackle, Richie Incognito was going to be the left guard, and Eric Wood was going to be the center, that there was really no discussion there. And, prior to everything that happened in Miami, Richie Incognito was playing at a Pro Bowl type level. So I think, after the past 2 seasons, the Bills have had a lot of trouble at that guard spot. And if Incognito, it's not just his second chance, it's probably his third or fourth chance in the NFL. But if he plays well and he, keeps, out of any trouble off the field or in the locker room, I think he could be a very valuable piece to the Bills' offense this season.
That's one Buffalo Bill has been in the headlines for the wrong reason. Of course, the other is the recent signing of Ike Ekwonu. How has he been reacting with his teammates? Has there been any controversy so far in the locker room? And what's his role going to be on this team coming forward?
There hasn't been anything really notable, on the sidelines or in the locker room over the past week. And I think with Bills' backup defensive end, Jarius Wynn, tearing his ACL against the Panthers in the first preseason game, I think that gives IK a pretty good chance to actually make the roster. And a lot of that just comes from the fact that Rex Ryan drafted him last year in the 6th round when he was with the Jets. He's not going to be a guy that's going to play a ton of snaps or start, but I think he is that, reserve pass rusher that Rex Ryan and GM Doug Whaley like to have on the roster.
Chris, we'll get you out of here on this. What can we expect in the next few preseason games in the timeline of when a decision may be named by Rex Ryan of who the starter will actually be on this Buffalo Bills team?
Well, to me, I think all eyes have to really stay on Tyrod Taylor, E.J. Manuel, and Matt Castle. That all three played very well against the Panthers. There was really no separation. So I think everything involving the evaluation of those three guys is the utmost importance. But there's not going to be a ton of starters playing. I would be surprised if Sammy Watkins or Robert Woods play. Obviously, all the running backs are not going to be on the field. It's going to be, newly signed guys, Bronson Hill, Ricky Seal, and Sierra Wood. So there's not going to be a ton of big names out there because there is kind of an injury bug going around. But I think just watching those quarterbacks and to see if there is any separation will be the most fun thing about these next 2 preseason games.
He covers the Buffalo Bills for NFL.com. Chris Trapasso. Chris, thank you so much for the time, man. We'll make sure to stay in touch for the future and enjoy the NFL season coming up here in just a few weeks.
Thanks, Tom.